Many Americans fear that Biden's economic agenda could have severe consequences. Senior Chief Economist of the U.S. International Trade Commission, Peter Morici, brought those issues to light recently in a column that he wrote for the Washington Times. It's called "Biden Forcing Hard Left Economic Agenda Risk Social Chaos." And he joins us now to break it all down for us. Thank you for joining us, Peter. We always love having you here. But I got to tell you, your article here, you began with some stats that are not really encouraging. Let folks know about what we have to look forward to.
Well, we have a good number of people that when the rent moratoriums run out will be on the street. You know, something like 25% of tenants can't pay their rent. We got about 50 million people in danger of going hungry. I mean, food shelters are running full bore, and some of that with federal money that will run out. Even if we get another stimulus package, these payments to households, they're not going to do much good. They're going mostly to people that are working. We have, 20 million people out there, 25 million people in households that are simply inadequately employed right now and face homelessness and hunger. I mean, it's the stuff of the French Revolution. Yet, the president wants to basically send the states money they don't need and that won't be used to help these people. He's not doing a whole lot for the unemployed. And I can go down the list, the immigration policy, the shutdown of the pipelines, deciding to suspend drilling on federal lands and so forth. It seems like they've taken a map of the country and figured out where the red spots are and said, how can we really turn the screw?
Tell me what you think fixes it, because it sounds like on the left what they would do is say we need to spend more money. We need to have more federal money. These people on the street, these people having problems, we need to give them more money. You know that's going to be a suggestion from the left. What do you think is the actual solution?
Well, I think we don't need to spend $2 trillion, but we need probably to spend a lot more than Mitch McConnell would like and in ways that he would not approve. For example, I think we need to recognize that about 10 million people who would like to work full-time are permanently unemployed. Their jobs are not coming back. If they make sandwiches, the sandwich store is not coming back. If they're an attorney that's been laid off in New York, the law firm is never going to call them back, and so forth. They need to be retrained and they need to be relocated. This is not something that can be dealt with, say, another 26 weeks of unemployment insurance. During the financial crisis, we had 99 weeks of unemployment insurance. Of course, we didn't do much to retrain people, but the economy wasn't changing so fundamentally under our feet. With major cities depopulating, New York is not going to look the same after this pandemic. It's not going to be the same, I should say. Offices aren't going to be occupied as they once were. So there are a lot of service jobs that are going away. We need to have a focused federal effort on retraining people and relocating people. Sending households with incomes of $150,000, another $1,400, is just absolutely silly. What it does is make a political payoff. He went down to Georgia and said, give me these 2 senators, and I'll send you $1,400. That, along with the way Mr. Trump handled themselves a few weeks before those runoff elections, is why Mitch McConnell is doing what he's doing, by the way. You covered that the last segment. You might consider this very divisive of the Republican Party, but I think McConnell is doing exactly the right thing in that regard. But conservatives would not be pleased with the prescriptions, that I'm making. I doubt that Senator Johnson from Wisconsin is going to call me up and say, Peter, let me hear more about your plans for the unemployed.
Peter, I would ask you, though, since all this is about the federal government, they're obviously not doing enough to help Americans. They're not doing their job. They're making things worse. Give some advice to folks sitting at home, to their individual families. What can they do? Because you're a senior economist, you know money. What do they need to do?
By the way, I'm the former chief economist, not the senior economist at the ITC. I've been out of there 20 years. There are a lot of programs available within the federal government right now to retrain. There are apprenticeship programs. They're not going to pay what a lot of people got before, but I'm not talking about becoming a welder. There are a lot of white-collar jobs for which the Department of Labor has training opportunities available that are provided through the private sector, and they should investigate those. I can't tell them where they're going to get additional unemployment benefits if they're not available. The basic problem with the advice I just gave you is people need dollars to relocate, and to some extent, some supplement to sustain them while they are retrained. If they go into an apprenticeship program, they'll get $15 an hour. For many people, that's simply not enough. But that's the advice I have. Other than the following, if you're in New York and waiting for the city to come back and you're saying, well, gee, I can't leave the Big Apple, or you feel that way about Chicago or Seattle, look at the anarchy that took place last summer and say, do you really think that you can bring a city back where the answer to people throwing, Molotov cocktails into the windows of Macy's is to have fewer police? If you think that's a city that's going to find solutions, then golly, you probably ought to reconsider your evaluation of geography.
Yeah, it's some tough advice for some folks to hear, but good advice.
I understand that it's very difficult advice that I'm giving, but I'm giving it within the context of not being a hard-nosed guy and saying, the government shouldn't help you. There isn't really much this government is willing to do that is truly helpful to those people. Right now, Nancy Pelosi isn't interested in bailing out the attorney or the sandwich maker that's lost their job in New York. She's interested in bailing out Bill Blasio.
Yes.
President Biden isn't interested in helping those people because if he was, he's been a senator. He knows what needs to be done. Instead, he's paying his political debts by putting dollars in the hands of those suburban housewives and working women who voted Democratic in Georgia because he said, I'll give you $1,400 if you'll give me these two senators. Yeah. If Donald Trump had made a promise like that and tabled this bill, we'd have a third impeachment trial.
All right. Well, Peter, people need help right now. That much I do know. Thank you so much. Yeah.
Take care.
Thank you for joining us.